Book 3. Telemachus visits Nestor at Pylos. As the sun rose from the beautiful sea, casting its light on mortals and gods alike, they arrived at Pylos, the city of Neleus. The people of Pylos were gathered on the shore, sacrificing black bulls to Poseidon, god of earthquakes. 9 groups, each with 500 men, offered 9 bulls each. As they ate the inner organs and burned the thigh bones on the embers in Poseidon's name, Telemachus and his crew arrived. They lowered their sails, anchored their ship, and went ashore. Athena led the way, and Telemachus followed. Athena said,
"Telemachus, don't be shy or nervous at all. You've made this journey to find out where your father is buried and how he died. So go straight to Nestor and let's hear what he has to tell us. Beg him to tell the truth. He's a good man, so he won't lie."
Telemachus replied,
"Mentor, how can I possibly approach Nestor? And what should I say to him? I've never had a long conversation with anyone before. I'm ashamed to start questioning someone so much older than me."
Athena answered,
"Telemachus, some things your own instincts will tell you, and the heavens will teach you even more. I'm sure the gods have been with you since the day you were born."
Athena walked quickly, and Telemachus followed her. They arrived where the Pylian people were gathered. There, they saw Nestor sitting with his sons. People around them were busy preparing dinner. Some were putting meat on spits, while others were cooking it. When the strangers were spotted, people crowded around them, took their hands, and invited them to sit. Nestor's son, Pisistratus, immediately greeted each of them and seated them on soft sheepskins laid on the sand near his father and brother, Thrasymedes. Then he gave them portions of the inner organs and poured wine into a golden cup for them. He handed the cup to Athena first, greeting her as he did so. Pisistratus said,
"Sir, please offer a prayer to King Poseidon. You're joining his feast right now. Once you've prayed and made your drink offering, pass the cup to your friend so he can do the same. I'm sure he also raises his hands in prayer, for humans cannot live without the gods in this world. Still, he is younger than you and about my age, so I will give you the honor of going first."
As he spoke, he handed her the cup. Athena thought it was very right and proper of him to offer the cup to her first. She then began to pray sincerely to Poseidon. She cried out,
"Oh, God who encircles the earth, please hear the prayers of your servants who call upon you. We especially beg you to bless Nestor and his sons. Also, grant the rest of the Pylian people a fitting reward for the excellent sacrifices they are offering you. Finally, allow Telemachus and me to happily achieve the purpose that brought us to Pylos in our ship."
After finishing her prayer, Athena handed the cup to Telemachus, and he prayed in the same way. Soon after, when the outer meats were roasted and taken off the spits, the carvers gave everyone their share, and they all enjoyed an excellent dinner. Once they had eaten and drunk their fill, Nestor, the knight of Gerene, began to speak. He said,
"Now that our guests have finished their dinner, it would be good to ask who they are. Gentlemen, who are you, and from what port have you sailed? Are you merchants? Or do you roam the seas like pirates, hostile to everyone, with everyone's hand against you?"
Telemachus answered boldly. Athena had given him the courage to ask about his father and make a name for himself. He said,
"Nestor, son of Neleus, glory of the Achaeans, you ask where we come from, and I will tell you. We are from Ithaca, beneath Mount Neritum. The matter I wish to speak about is private, not public. I am searching for news of my unhappy father, Odysseus. He is said to have sacked the city of Troy alongside you. We know what fate befell the other heroes who fought at Troy, but as for Odysseus, the heavens haven't even told us if he's dead. No one can say for sure where he died, whether he fell in battle on land or drowned at sea amidst Amphitrite's waves. Therefore, I beg you on my knees, if you could possibly tell me about his sad end. Whether you saw it with your own eyes or heard it from another traveler. He was a man born for trouble. Don't soften anything out of pity for me. Just tell me plainly and honestly exactly what you saw. If my brave father Odysseus ever served you Achaeans faithfully, in word or deed, when you were troubled by the Trojans, Please remember that now for my sake and tell me everything truthfully.
Nestor replied,
My friend, you remind me of a time filled with much sorrow. The brave Achaeans suffered greatly at sea while raiding under Achilles, and just as much fighting before King Priam's great city. All our finest warriors fell there. Ajax, Achilles, Patroclus, who was as wise as the gods, and even my own dear son Antilochus, who was incredibly swift-footed and brave in battle. But we suffered far more than that. What mortal tongue could possibly tell the whole story? Even if you stayed here and questioned me for 5 or even 6 years, I couldn't tell you everything the Achaeans endured. You'd grow tired of my tale and head home before it ended. For 9 long years, we tried every kind of trick and strategy, but the will of the heavens was against us. During all that time, no one could compare to your father in cleverness. If you truly are his son, that is. I can hardly believe my eyes. You speak so much like him. No one would think that people of such different ages could speak so similarly. He and I never had any disagreements, from start to finish, whether in camp or in council. With one heart and purpose, we advised the Argives on how to arrange everything for the best. However, after we sacked Priam's city and set sail as the gods scattered us, Zeus decided to make the Argives suffer on their journey home. Not all of them had been wise or understanding, so many met a terrible end due to the displeasure of Athena, daughter of Zeus. Athena caused a quarrel between the 2 sons of Atreus. The sons of Atreus called a meeting, but it wasn't a proper one. The sun had set, and the Achaeans were heavy with wine. When they explained why they had gathered the people, Menelaus insisted they should sail home at once. This displeased Agamemnon, who believed they should wait and offer sacrifices to calm Athena's anger. Foolishly, he should have known he couldn't sway her. The gods don't easily change their minds once they've decided something. So the 2 exchanged harsh words, and the Achaeans leaped to their feet with a cry that tore through the air. They were divided, unsure of what to do. That night, we rested and let our anger cool, for Zeus was plotting trouble against us. But in the morning, some of us launched our ships and loaded our goods and women aboard. About half of us stayed behind with Agamemnon. We, the other half, boarded our ships and sailed. The ships sailed smoothly because the heavens had calmed the sea. When we reached Tenedos, we offered sacrifices to the gods, longing to get home. However, cruel Zeus had no intention of letting us do so yet, and he stirred up a second quarrel. During this, some of us turned our ships back and sailed with Odysseus to make peace with Agamemnon. But I, and all the ships with me, pressed onward, for I saw trouble brewing. Tydeus's son also went on with me, and his crew. Later, Menelaus joined us at Lesbos and found us trying to decide our course. We didn't know whether to go outside Chios, keeping the island of Syra to our left, or inside Chios, past the stormy headland of Mimas. So we asked the heavens for a sign, and we received one. We would be safest and quickest out of danger if we steered our ships across the open sea toward Euboea. That's what we did, and a fair wind sprang up, giving us a swift passage through the night to Geriestus. There, we offered many sacrifices to Poseidon for helping us so far on our journey. 4 days later, Diomed and his men docked their ships in Argos, but I continued on to Pylos. The wind never died down from the day the heavens first granted me a fair breeze. So, my dear young friend, I returned without hearing any news about the others. I don't know who made it home safely or who was lost. But I will tell you everything I know, without holding anything back. These are the reports I've heard since I returned to my own house here. They say the Myrmidons returned home safely under Achilles' son, Neoptolemus. The valiant son of Poias, Philoctetes, did too. Idomeneus lost no men at sea, and all his followers who escaped death in battle returned safely with him to Crete. No matter how far from the world you live, you must have heard about Agamemnon and the terrible end he met at the hands of Aegisthus. And Aegisthus soon paid a fearful price. See what a good thing it is for a man to leave a son behind, to do as Orestes did, who killed the wicked Aegisthus, the murderer of his noble father. You, too, are a tall, smart-looking young man. Show your courage and make a name for yourself in history."
Telemachus replied,
Nestor, son of Neleus, glory of the Achaeans praise Orestes, and his name will be remembered forever. He nobly avenged his father. How I wish the heavens would grant me similar revenge against the arrogance of these wicked suitors, who are mistreating me and plotting my downfall. But the gods have not prepared such happiness for me and my father, so we must endure it as best we can.
Nestor said,
"My friend, now that you remind me, I recall hearing about your mother. She has many suitors who are hostile to you and are ruining your estate. Are you just putting up with this, or are public opinion and the will of the gods against you? Who knows, Odysseus might return after all and make these scoundrels pay in full, either by himself or with an army of Achaeans behind him. If Athena were to like you as much as she liked Odysseus when we fought before Troy, and I've never seen the gods so openly fond of anyone as Athena was of your father then, if she would take as good care of you as she did of him, these suitors would soon give up their wooing."
I can't expect anything like that, Telemachus replied. It's too big a dream, too much to even imagine. Even if the gods themselves wanted it, such good fortune would never come my way.
"Telemachus, what are you saying?" Athena asked. "Heaven has a long reach when it decides to save someone. If it were me, I wouldn't care how much I suffered on the journey, as long as I could finally reach home safely. I'd rather face hardship and then be safe, than rush home only to be murdered in my own house, like Agamemnon was by the betrayal of Aegisthus and his wife. But remember, death is certain. When a person's time comes, not even the gods can save them, no matter how much they care."
Mentor, Telemachus replied, let's not talk about that anymore. There's no chance my father will ever return, the gods decided his fate long ago. But there's something else I want to ask Nestor. He knows more than anyone else. People say he's been king for 3 generations, so it's like talking to an immortal. So, Nestor, please tell me the truth, how did Agamemnon die that way? What was Menelaus doing then? And how did that cunning Aegisthus manage to kill a man so much better than himself? Was Menelaus away from Achaean Argos, sailing to other lands, which gave Aegisthus the courage to kill Agamemnon?
"I'll tell you the truth," Nestor replied. "In fact, you've already guessed how it all happened. If Menelaus had returned from Troy and found Aegisthus still alive in his house, Aegisthus wouldn't even have a burial mound. Even in death, he would have been tossed outside the city, food for dogs and vultures. Not a single woman would have mourned him, because his deed was so wicked. But we were far away, fighting fiercely at Troy. Meanwhile, Aegisthus was living comfortably in the heart of Argos, using endless flattery to charm Agamemnon's wife, Clytemnestra. At first, Clytemnestra wanted nothing to do with his evil plan. She was naturally a good woman. Plus, Agamemnon had left a bard with her, strictly ordering him to watch over his wife while he was away at Troy. But when the gods decided her downfall, Aegisthus dragged the bard to a deserted island and left him there to be eaten by crows and seagulls. After that, Clytemnestra willingly went to Aegisthus's house. Aegisthus then offered many sacrifices to the gods and decorated countless temples with tapestries and gold. He had succeeded far beyond his wildest dreams. Meanwhile, Menelaus and I were sailing home from Troy, getting along well. When we reached Sunium, the tip of Athens, the god Apollo struck down Phrontis, Menelaus's helmsman, with a deadly arrow. Phrontis was the best at handling a ship in rough weather, and he died right there, still gripping the helm. Menelaus was eager to press on, but he had to wait to bury his comrade and give him proper funeral rites. Soon after, he could set sail again. When he reached the Malian headlands, Zeus sent misfortune his way, stirring up fierce winds that made the waves rise like mountains. Here, Menelaus split his fleet. Half of it headed towards Crete, where the Sidonians live near the Iardanus River. There's a high headland there, stretching into the sea from a place called Gorton. Along this coast, all the way to Festus, the sea gets rough when a south wind blows. But past Festus, the coast is safer, with a small headland offering great shelter. Here, part of the fleet crashed against the rocks and was wrecked, though the crews barely saved themselves. The other 5 ships were swept by winds and waves to Egypt. There, Menelaus collected much gold and treasure among people who spoke a strange language. Back home, Aegisthus was busy with his evil plot. After killing Agamemnon, he ruled Mycenae for 7 years, and the people obeyed him. But in the 8th year, Orestes returned from Athens to be his doom. He killed his father's murderer. Then, Orestes held a feast for the people of Argos to announce the deaths of his mother and the cunning Aegisthus. On that very day, Menelaus arrived home, his ships laden with as much treasure as they could carry. So, listen to my advice. Don't travel too far from home for too long, and don't leave your property to those dangerous people in your house. They'll devour everything you own, and your journey will be for nothing. Still, I strongly urge you to visit Menelaus. He recently returned from a voyage to lands so distant that no one thought a man could ever come back once the winds had carried him so far off course. Even birds couldn't fly that distance in a year, the seas he crossed were vast and terrifying. So, go to him by sea, and take your own men. Or, if you prefer to travel by land, I can give you a chariot and horses, and my sons will escort you to Lacedaemon, where Menelaus lives. Ask him to tell you the truth. He is an honorable man and won't lie to you.
As Nestor spoke, the sun set and darkness fell. Athena then said,
Sir, everything you've said is wise. Now, please order the tongues of the sacrificed animals to be cut, and mix the wine so we can pour offerings to Poseidon and the other immortal gods. Then, it's time for bed. At religious festivals, people should leave early and not stay up late.
When Athena, daughter of Zeus, finished speaking, they all obeyed her words. Male servants poured water over the guests' hands, while young attendants filled the mixing bowls with wine and water. They passed the bowls around, allowing each man to make his drink offering. Then, they threw the tongues of the sacrificed animals into the fire and stood to pour their offerings. After they had made their offerings and drunk as much as they wished, Athena and Telemachus prepared to board their ship. But Nestor quickly stopped them.
By heaven and the immortal gods! Nestor exclaimed. I forbid you to leave my house and go back to your ship. Do you think I'm so poor, so short on clothes, or that I have so few cloaks that I can't provide comfortable beds for myself and my guests? Let me tell you, I have plenty of rugs and cloaks. As long as I live, I will not allow the son of my old friend Odysseus to sleep on a ship's deck. My sons, after me, will also keep an open house, just as I have.
Athena replied,
Sir, you've spoken well. It would be much better for Telemachus to do as you've suggested. So, he will return with you and sleep at your house. But I must go back to give orders to my crew and keep their spirits high. I am the only older person among them, the rest are all young men, Telemachus's age, who joined this voyage out of friendship. So, I must return to the ship and sleep there. Besides, tomorrow I need to go to the Cauconians. They owe me a large sum of money that's been due for a long time. As for Telemachus, since he is now your guest, please send him to Lacedaemon in a chariot, and let one of your sons go with him. I would also be grateful if you could provide your best and fastest horses.
As she finished speaking, Athena flew away in the form of an eagle. Everyone watched, amazed by the sight. Nestor was astonished. He took Telemachus's hand.
My friend, he said, you are still so young, yet the gods watch over you like this. It's clear you're destined to be a great hero someday. That could have been no one else among the sky-dwellers but Athena, the mighty daughter of Zeus, born of Triton. She showed such favor to your brave father among the Argives. Holy Queen, he continued, please grant your grace upon me, my good wife, and my children. In return, I will offer you a sacrifice, a broad-browed heifer, 1-year-old, unbroken, and never yet yoked by man. I will gild her horns and offer her up to you."
As Nestor prayed, Athena heard him. He then led his sons and sons-in-law back to his house. Once they arrived and settled onto the benches and seats, Nestor mixed them a bowl of sweet wine. It was 11 years old when the housekeeper had first opened its jar. As he mixed the wine, he prayed fervently and poured drink offerings to Athena, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus. After they had made their offerings and drunk as much as they wished, the others went home to their own beds. But Nestor had Telemachus sleep in the room above the gateway, alongside Pisistratus, who was his only unmarried son remaining. Nestor himself slept in an inner room of the house, with his wife, the queen, by his side. When rosy-fingered Dawn, child of morning, appeared, Nestor rose from his bed. He sat on the benches of white, polished marble in front of his house. Long ago, Neleus, whose wisdom rivaled the gods, used to sit there. But Neleus was now dead, gone to the house of Hades. So, Nestor sat in his place, holding his scepter as guardian of the people's welfare. His sons, Echephron, Stratius, Perseus, Aretus, and Thrasymedes, came out of their rooms and gathered around him. The sixth son was Pisistratus. When Telemachus joined them, they made him sit with them. Then, Nestor spoke to his sons.
"My sons," he said, "hurry and do as I command you. First and foremost, I want to honor the great goddess Athena, who appeared to me in person during yesterday's festivities. So, one of you, go to the plain and tell the stockman to find a heifer and bring it here immediately. Another must go to Telemachus's ship and invite all the crew, leaving only 2 men to guard the vessel. Someone else, run and fetch Lerceus the goldsmith to gild the heifer's horns. The rest of you, stay right here. Tell the maids in the house to prepare an excellent dinner and to bring seats and logs of wood for a burnt offering. Also, tell them to bring me some clear spring water."
They quickly set off to carry out their tasks. The heifer was led in from the plain, and Telemachus's crew arrived from the ship. The goldsmith brought his anvil, hammer, and tongs for working gold, and the goddess Athena herself appeared to accept the sacrifice. Nestor provided the gold, and the smith gilded the heifer's horns, making them beautiful enough to please the goddess. Then, Stratius and Echephron led the heifer by its horns. Aretus brought water from the house in a patterned ewer, carrying a basket of barley meal in his other hand. Strong Thrasymedes stood ready with a sharp axe to strike the heifer, while Perseus held a bucket. Nestor began by washing his hands and sprinkling barley meal. He offered many prayers to Athena as he threw a lock of hair from the heifer's head onto the fire. After they finished praying and sprinkling the barley meal, Thrasymedes struck. With a single blow, he cut through the tendons at the base of the heifer's neck, bringing her down. Nestor's daughters-in-law, and his respected wife, Eurydice, who was Clymenus' eldest daughter, all cried out with joy. They lifted the heifer's head from the ground, and Pisistratus slit her throat. Once all the blood had drained, and she was completely dead, they butchered the animal. In order, they cut out all the thigh bones, wrapped them in 2 layers of fat, and placed pieces of raw meat on top. Nestor then laid these on the wood fire and poured wine over them. The young men stood nearby, holding 5-pronged spits. After the thigh bones were burned and they had tasted the inner meats, they cut the remaining meat into small pieces, skewered them, and roasted them over the fire. Meanwhile, Nestor's youngest daughter, the beautiful Polycaste, bathed Telemachus. After she washed and anointed him with oil, she brought him a fine cloak and shirt. When Telemachus emerged from his bath and sat beside Nestor, he looked like a god. Once the outer meats were cooked, they took them off the spits and sat down to dinner. Loyal servants attended them, continuously pouring wine into golden cups. As soon as they had eaten and drunk their fill, Nestor said,
"Sons, harness Telemachus's horses to the chariot so he can depart at once."
As he spoke, they quickly harnessed the swift horses to the chariot as he had instructed. The housekeeper packed provisions of bread, wine, and sweet treats, fit for the sons of princes. Telemachus climbed into the chariot, and Pisistratus took the reins, sitting beside him. He whipped the horses, and they galloped eagerly into the open country, leaving the high citadel of Pylus behind them. They traveled all day, the yoke swaying on the horses' necks, until the sun set and darkness covered the land. Then they reached Pheræ, the home of Diocles, son of Ortilochus and grandson of Alpheus. They spent the night there, and Diocles welcomed them with generous hospitality. When rosy-fingered Dawn, child of morning, appeared, they again yoked their horses and drove out through the gateway beneath the echoing gatehouse. Pisistratus lashed the horses, and they flew forward without hesitation. Soon, they reached the rich farmlands of the open country, and thanks to their swift steeds, they completed their journey in good time. Now the sun had set, and darkness covered the land. Book 4. Visiting King Menelaus, his story and the suitors in Ithaca. They reached the low-lying city of Lacedaemon and headed straight for King Menelaus's palace. They found King Menelaus hosting a grand feast with his many relatives. The king was celebrating the weddings of both his son and his daughter. His daughter was marrying the son of the brave warrior Achilles. Menelaus had promised her to Achilles' son during the Trojan War, and now the gods were making the marriage happen. So, he was sending her with chariots and horses to the city of the Myrmidons, where Achilles' son ruled. Meanwhile, his only son was set to marry the daughter of Elector from Sparta. This son, Megapenthes, had been born to him by a slave woman. The gods had not granted Helen any more children after she bore Hermione, who was as beautiful as golden Aphrodite herself. Menelaus's neighbors and relatives were enjoying the feast, making merry throughout the palace. A bard sang and played his lyre, and 2 acrobats performed amazing tricks among the guests, moving to the bard's music. Telemachus and Pisistratus, Nestor's son, stopped their horses at the palace gate. Menelaus's servant, Eteoneus, came out. As soon as he saw them, Eteoneus rushed back inside to tell his master. He approached the king and said,
King Menelaus, 2 strangers have arrived. They look like sons of Zeus. What should we do? Should we stable their horses, or tell them to find lodging somewhere else?
King Menelaus grew very angry and said,
Eteoneus, son of Boethus. You're usually not a fool, but now you're talking like a simpleton. Of course, stable their horses and bring the guests inside so they can have supper. You and I have stayed in countless homes before we finally returned here. May the gods grant us peaceful rest from now on.
Eteoneus hurried back and told the other servants to come with him. The servants unhitched the sweating horses from their yoke, tied them in the stalls, and gave them a mix of oats and barley. They leaned the chariot against the courtyard wall and then led the guests into the palace. Telemachus and Pisistratus were amazed by the palace's splendor. It shone like the sun and moon. After admiring everything to their heart's content, they went to the bathhouse to wash. Servants washed them and anointed them with fragrant oil, then brought them warm woolen cloaks and shirts. The 2 young men took their seats beside King Menelaus. A maidservant brought water in a beautiful golden ewer and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands. She then placed a clean table next to them. A chief servant brought bread and offered them many delicious dishes from the palace. The carver brought plates of various meats and set golden cups beside them. King Menelaus welcomed them, saying,
Please, eat and make yourselves welcome. After supper, I'll ask who you are. The lineage of such fine men as yourselves cannot have been lost. You must be descendants of scepter-bearing kings. Poor people simply don't have sons like you.
King Menelaus handed them a piece of rich, roasted loin, a prime cut that had been placed near him. They began to eat the delicious food set before them. After they had eaten and drunk their fill, Telemachus leaned close to Pisistratus, Nestor's son, and whispered so no one else could hear.
Pisistratus, my dear friend, look at the dazzling gleam of bronze and gold, amber, ivory, and silver. Everything is so magnificent, it's like seeing the palace of Olympian Zeus himself. I'm completely awestruck.
King Menelaus overheard their conversation and said,
My sons, no one can compare to Zeus. His palace and everything about him are immortal. Among mortal men, however, there might be someone as wealthy as I am, or there might not. In any case, I've traveled far and endured countless hardships. It took me almost 8 years to return home with my fleet. I visited Cyprus, Phoenicia, and the lands of the Egyptians. I also went to the Ethiopians, the Sidonians, the Erembians, and to Libya, where lambs are born with horns, and sheep give birth 3 times a year. In that country, everyone, master or servant, had plenty of cheese, meat, and good milk, because the ewes produced milk all year round. But while I was traveling and accumulating great riches among these people, my brother was secretly and horribly murdered through the treachery of his wicked wife. So, I find no joy in being lord of all this wealth. Whoever your parents may be, they must have told you about all this, and about my great loss, the ruin of a stately, magnificently furnished mansion. I wish I had only a third of what I have now, if only I had stayed home, and all those who perished on the plains of Troy, far from Argos, were still alive. I often grieve for each and every one of them as I sit here in my palace. Sometimes I cry aloud in sorrow, but then I stop. Crying offers no comfort, and one quickly grows tired of it. Yet, more than all of them, I mourn for one man. Thinking of him makes me so miserable that I loathe both food and sleep. No one among all the Achaeans worked as hard or risked as much as he did. He gained nothing from it, and left me only a legacy of sorrow. He has been gone so long that we don't even know if he's alive or dead. His old father, his long-suffering wife Penelope, and his son Telemachus, whom he left as an infant in arms, are all plunged into deep grief because of him.
As the king finished speaking, Telemachus's heart ached, thinking of his father. Tears streamed from his eyes at the mention of his father's name, and he covered his face with his cloak, using both hands. Seeing this, King Menelaus hesitated. He wondered whether to wait for Telemachus to speak on his own, or to ask him directly and learn everything at once. While the king was still conflicted, Helen descended from her high, perfumed, arched room. She was as beautiful as the goddess Artemis herself. Adraste brought her a seat, and Alcippe brought a soft woolen rug. Philo fetched her the silver workbox that Alcandra, wife of Polybus, had given to Helen. Polybus lived in Egyptian Thebes, the richest city in the entire world. He had given King Menelaus 2 pure silver baths, 2 tripods, and 10 talents of gold. Besides these, his wife had given Helen beautiful gifts, a golden distaff and a silver workbox on wheels. A gold band encircled the top of the box. Philo now placed this box beside Helen. It was full of finely spun yarn, with a distaff wrapped in violet-colored wool resting on top. Helen sat down, placed her feet on the footstool, and began to question her husband. Helen spoke.
Menelaus, do you know the names of these strangers who have come to visit us? I don't know if my guess is right or wrong, but I can't help saying what I think. I've never seen anyone, man or woman, so strikingly similar to another person. Honestly, every time I look at him, I'm not sure what to think. This young man looks so much like Telemachus, whom Odysseus left behind as a baby when you Achaeans went to Troy to fight because of my utterly shameless actions.
King Menelaus replied,
My dear wife, I see the likeness just as you do. His hands and feet are exactly like Odysseus's, and so are his hair, the shape of his head, and the look in his eyes. What's more, when I was speaking about Odysseus and how much he suffered because of me, tears fell from his eyes, and he covered his face with his cloak.
Then Pisistratus spoke.
King Menelaus, son of Atreus, you are correct in thinking this young man is Telemachus. However, he is very modest and hesitates to speak first to someone whose conversation is as divinely interesting as yours. My father, Nestor, sent me to escort him here. He wanted to know if you could offer him any counsel or suggestions. A son always faces difficulties at home when his father is gone and leaves him without supporters. This is exactly Telemachus's situation now. His father is absent, and there's no one among his own people to stand by him.
King Menelaus said,
Bless my heart. So, I am receiving a visit from the son of a very dear friend, one who suffered so much hardship for my sake. I had always hoped to honor him with the highest distinction once the gods granted us a safe return from across the seas. I would have founded a city for him in Argos and built him a house. I would have had him leave Ithaca with his possessions, his son, and all his people, and then conquered one of the neighboring cities under my rule to give to them. That way, we would have seen each other constantly, and nothing but death could have interrupted our close and happy friendship. But I suppose the gods begrudged us such great good fortune, for they prevented my poor friend from ever getting home at all."
As the king finished speaking, they all began to weep. Helen wept, Telemachus wept, and King Menelaus wept too. Pisistratus also couldn't hold back his tears, remembering his beloved brother Antilochus, whom the son of bright dawn had killed. Then he spoke to King Menelaus.
"Sir, my father Nestor always spoke of you at home as a man of rare and excellent wisdom. So, if it's possible, please do as I ask. I don't like to cry while I'm eating supper. Morning will come in due time, and in the forenoon, I don't mind how much we weep for those who are dead and gone. That's all we can do for those poor souls. We can only shave our heads for them and let the tears stream down our cheeks. I also had a brother who died at Troy. He was certainly not the worst man there. You must have known him, sir. His name was Antilochus. I never saw him myself, but people say he was exceptionally swift-footed and brave in battle."
King Menelaus answered,
"My friend, your good sense goes far beyond your years. It's clear you take after your father. One can easily tell when a man is the son of someone whom the gods have blessed with both a wife and children. Nestor has been blessed throughout his life, enjoying a healthy old age in his own home, surrounded by sons who are both kind-hearted and brave. So, let's put an end to all this weeping and focus on our supper again. Let water be poured over our hands for washing. Telemachus and I can talk fully with each other in the morning."
Asphalion, one of the servants, poured water over their hands, and they began to enjoy the delicious food laid out before them. Then Helen, daughter of Zeus, had another idea. She secretly added a special herb to the wine, an herb that made people forget all their worries, sadness, and bad moods. Anyone who drank this drugged wine couldn't shed a single tear for the rest of the day. This was true even if they saw their parents die right before their eyes, or watched a brother or son torn to pieces. This incredibly powerful medicine had been given to Helen by Polydamna, the wife of Thon, an Egyptian woman. Egypt was a land where all sorts of herbs grew, some used for medicine and others for poison. Plus, everyone in that country was an excellent doctor, for they were descendants of Paeon, the god of healing. After Helen put the herb into the bowl and told the servants to pour the wine, she began to speak. Helen began,
"Lord Menelaus, son of Atreus, and my noble friends, sons of honorable men. All of this is the will of great Zeus, for he controls both good and evil, and can do whatever he chooses. Please enjoy this feast to your heart's content, and listen as I tell you a story that fits this moment perfectly. I can't possibly list all of Odysseus's amazing deeds, but I can tell you what he did when the Achaeans were facing so many difficulties during the Trojan War. He covered himself in wounds and bruises, dressed in rags, and disguised himself as a servant or a beggar to enter the enemy city. He looked completely different from how he usually appeared among his own people. In this disguise, he entered Troy, and no one spoke to him. Only I recognized him and started to question him, but he was too clever for me. However, after I had washed and anointed him, given him new clothes, and sworn a solemn oath not to betray him to the Trojans until he had safely returned to his own camp and ships, he told me everything the Achaeans planned to do. He killed many Trojans and gathered a lot of information before returning to the Argive camp. The Trojan women mourned all these events, but I was glad. My heart had begun to yearn for my home, and I was so unhappy about the misfortune Aphrodite had brought upon me by taking me away from my country, my daughter, and my excellent husband, who is truly lacking in neither looks nor wisdom."
Menelaus replied,
"My dear wife, everything you've said is true. I've traveled extensively and met countless heroes, but I've never encountered anyone quite like Odysseus. The endurance and courage he showed inside the wooden horse, where all the bravest Argives were hidden, waiting to bring death and ruin upon the Trojans, was truly remarkable. At that very moment, you approached us. Some god, who favored the Trojans, must have urged you on. You were with Deiphobus. 3 times you circled our hiding place, tapping on the wooden horse, calling out our commanders' names one by one, and mimicking our wives' voices. Diomed, Odysseus, and I heard every sound you made from inside. Diomed and I couldn't decide whether to leap out right then or answer you from within. But Odysseus restrained us all, so we remained perfectly still. Everyone, that is, except Anticlus. Just as he was about to answer you, Odysseus clapped his 2 strong hands over Anticlus's mouth and held them there. That's what saved us all, for he kept Anticlus silent until Athena took you away again.
How sad.
Telemachus exclaimed.
That none of this was enough to save him, nor even his own unyielding courage. But now, my lord, please send us all to bed. We long to lie down and enjoy the blessing of sweet sleep.
Helen then instructed her maidservants to prepare beds in the gatehouse room. She told them to lay down soft red blankets and place woolen cloaks on top for the guests to use as covers. The maidservants went out with torches and made the beds. Soon after, a male servant led the strangers to their room. So, Telemachus and Pisistratus slept in the forecourt, while Menelaus, son of Atreus, spent the night in an inner room with the beautiful Helen by his side. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered Dawn, appeared, Menelaus rose and dressed. He tied his sandals onto his fine feet, strapped his sword to his shoulder, and left his room looking like an immortal god. Then, he sat down next to Telemachus and spoke.
Telemachus,
He asked,
what has brought you on this long sea journey all the way to Lacedaemon? Is it for official business, or a personal matter? Tell me everything.
Telemachus replied,
My lord, I have come to ask if you know anything about my father. My home is being destroyed, and my beautiful estate is being ruined. My house is filled with villains who are killing countless sheep and cattle, all under the guise of courting my mother. So, I beg you, please tell me about my father's sad fate. Tell me whether you saw it with your own eyes or heard it from another traveler, for he was a man destined for hardship. Do not hide the truth out of pity for me, but speak plainly and tell me exactly what you saw. If my brave father Odysseus ever served you loyally with words or actions when you Achaeans were troubled by the Trojans, please remember that now and help me tell me everything truthfully.
Menelaus was deeply shocked to hear this. He exclaimed,
What? These cowards dare to take over a brave man's home? It's like a doe giving birth to her fawns in a lion's den, then going off to feed in the forest or a grassy meadow. When the lion returns to his lair, he'll quickly finish them both off. And that's exactly what Odysseus will do to these suitors. I swear by Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo, if Odysseus is still the man he was when he wrestled Philomelides in Lesbos, throwing him so powerfully that all the Achaeans cheered him, if he is still that man and were to return to these suitors, they would face a swift end and a miserable wedding. But regarding your questions, I will not beat around the bush or deceive you. I will tell you openly everything the old man of the sea told me. I was trying to come here, but the gods held me back in Egypt. My sacrifices hadn't fully pleased them, and the gods are very particular about receiving their proper offerings. Off the coast of Egypt, about a day's sail with a good strong breeze, there's an island called Pharos. It has an excellent harbor where ships can take on water before heading out to the open sea. But the gods kept me stranded there for 20 days, without even a breath of fair wind to help me move forward. We would have run completely out of food, and my men would have starved, if a goddess hadn't taken pity on me and saved me. She was Idothea, daughter of Proteus, the old man of the sea, and she had taken a great liking to me. One day, she came to me when I was alone, as I often was. My men were scattered across the island with their fishing hooks, desperately trying to catch a fish or two to escape the pain of hunger. She said, "Stranger, it seems you enjoy starving like this, or at least it doesn't bother you much. You stay here day after day, not even trying to leave, even though your men are slowly dying."
I replied,
Whoever you are, goddess, let me tell you, I am not staying here by my own choice. I must have angered the gods in Olympus. So please, since the gods know everything, tell me which immortal is blocking my path like this. And tell me how I can sail home across the sea.
She answered,
Stranger, I will explain everything clearly to you. There's an old immortal living under the sea nearby, named Proteus. He's an Egyptian, and people say he's my father. He's Poseidon's chief servant and knows every corner of the ocean floor. If you can trap him and hold him firmly, he will tell you about your voyage, which routes to take, and how to sail home across the sea. Also, if you wish, he will tell you all the good and bad things that have happened in your house while you've been away on your long and dangerous journey.
I asked,
Can you show me a trick to catch this old god without him noticing or discovering me? A god isn't easily caught by a mortal man.
She said,
Stranger, I will explain everything clearly to you. Around midday, the old man of the sea rises from beneath the waves, announced by the west wind that ruffles the water above him. As soon as he comes up, he lies down and falls asleep in a great sea cave. There, seals, whom people call Halcyon chickens, also emerge from the grey sea and gather around him to sleep in large groups. They bring with them a very strong, fishy smell. Early tomorrow morning, I will take you to this spot and hide you in ambush. So, choose the 3 best men from your fleet, and I will tell you all the tricks the old man will try. First, he will inspect all his seals and count them. After he has checked them and counted them on his fingers, he will fall asleep among them, just like a shepherd among his sheep. The moment you see he's asleep, seize him. Use all your strength and hold him tight, for he will try his absolute hardest to escape you. He will transform into every kind of creature that lives on land, and he will even become fire and water. But you must hold him fast and grip him tighter and tighter until he starts to speak to you and returns to the form he had when you first saw him fall asleep. Only then can you loosen your grip and let him go. Then you can ask him which god is angry with you and what you must do to sail home across the seas.
After saying this, she dived beneath the waves. I turned back toward where my ships were lined up on the shore, my heart filled with worry as I walked. When I reached my ship, we prepared supper, for night was falling, and we camped on the beach.
When the rosy-fingered dawn appeared, I took the 3 men I could most rely on for their skill and bravery, and we walked along the seaside, praying earnestly to the heavens. Meanwhile, the goddess brought me 4 freshly skinned seal hides from the bottom of the sea, for she intended to trick her father. Then she dug 4 holes for us to hide in and sat down, waiting for us to arrive. When we were close to her, she made us lie down in the holes one after another and threw a seal skin over each of us. Our ambush would have been unbearable, for the horrible stench of the fishy seals was truly awful. Who would willingly sleep next to a sea monster? But here, too, the goddess helped us. She came up with a brilliant idea to help us. She placed some ambrosia under each man's nostrils. Its fragrance was so delightful that it completely masked the smell of the seals. We waited the whole morning, making the most of our time, watching hundreds of seals come up to bask in the sun on the seashore. At noon, the old man of the sea also appeared. He found his plump seals, went over them, and counted them. We were among the first he counted, and he never suspected any trickery. As soon as he finished counting, he lay down to sleep. Then, with a shout, we rushed him and grabbed him. He immediately started his old tricks. First, he changed into a lion with a great mane, then suddenly a dragon, a leopard, and a wild boar. The next moment he was flowing water, and then, just as quickly, a tree. But we held on tight and never let go. Finally, the cunning old creature grew weary and said, "Son of Atreus, which of the gods helped you hatch this plot to trap and seize me against my will? What do you want?"
I replied,
"Old man, you know this yourself. There's no point in trying to stall me. I've been trapped on this island for so long, with no sign of ever leaving. I'm truly losing all hope. So, please tell me, since the gods know everything, which immortal god is holding me back? And how can I sail the sea to finally get home?
He replied,
If you want to finish your journey and get home quickly, you must offer sacrifices to Zeus and the other gods before you board your ship. It is decreed that you won't return to your friends and your own house until you go back to the sacred river of Egypt and offer holy hecatombs to the immortal gods who rule the heavens. Once you've done this, the gods will let you complete your voyage.
My heart broke when I heard I had to make that long and terrible voyage back to Egypt. But I answered,
Old man, I will do everything you've asked of me. But now, please tell me the truth. Did all the Achaeans, whom Nestor and I left behind when we sailed from Troy, make it home safely? Or did any of them meet a tragic end, either on their ships or among their friends, after the fighting was done?
He answered,
Son of Atreus, why ask me? You might be better off not knowing what I can tell you, for your eyes will surely fill with tears when you hear my story. Many of those you ask about are dead and gone, but many still remain. Only 2 of the main Achaean leaders perished during their return home. As for what happened on the battlefield, you were there yourself, so you know. A 3rd Achaean leader is still at sea, alive, but unable to return. Ajax was shipwrecked. Poseidon drove him onto the great rocks of Gyre, but still let him escape the water safely. Despite all of Athena's hatred, he would have avoided death if he hadn't ruined himself by boasting. He declared that the gods couldn't drown him, no matter how hard they tried. When Poseidon heard these arrogant words, he gripped his trident in his strong hands and split the rock of Gyre into 2 pieces. The base of the rock stayed put, but the part Ajax was sitting on plunged headfirst into the sea, dragging Ajax with it. That's how he drank the salty water and drowned. Your brother Agamemnon and his ships escaped, protected by Hera. But just as he was about to reach the high cape of Malea, a fierce storm swept him out to sea again, against his will. It drove him to the cape where Thyestes once lived, and where Aegisthus now resided. Eventually, though, it seemed he was destined to return safely after all. The gods changed the wind back to its original direction, and they reached home. Agamemnon kissed his native soil and shed tears of joy at finally being back in his own country. Aegisthus had a watchman constantly on guard, promising him 2 talents of gold. This man had been watching for a whole year to make sure Agamemnon didn't sneak away and prepare for war. So, as soon as the watchman saw Agamemnon pass by, he told Aegisthus, who immediately began to plot against him. He chose 20 of his bravest warriors and placed them in ambush on one side of the cloister. On the opposite side, he prepared a grand feast. Then he sent his chariots and horsemen to invite Agamemnon to the banquet, but he had evil intentions. Agamemnon went there, completely unaware of the doom awaiting him. When the feast was over, Aegisthus killed him as if he were slaughtering an ox in a butcher shop. Not a single one of Agamemnon's followers, nor any of Aegisthus's men, survived. They were all killed there in the cloisters.
Proteus spoke, and my heart broke as I listened. I sank onto the sands and wept. I felt as though I could no longer bear to live or look upon the light of the sun. After I had wept and writhed on the ground for a long time, the old man of the sea, Proteus, said,
Son of Atreus, don't waste any more time weeping so bitterly. It does no good at all. Return home as quickly as possible. Aegisthus might still be alive, and even if Orestes has killed him before you could, you might still attend his funeral.
Despite all my sorrow, I found some comfort in his words. I said,
Then I know about these 2. Now, please tell me about the 3rd person you mentioned. Is he still alive but trapped at sea, unable to return home? Or is he dead? Tell me the truth, no matter how much it saddens me.
He answered,
The 3rd man is Odysseus, who lives in Ithaca. I see him sorrowing bitterly in the house of the nymph Calypso. She is keeping him prisoner, and he cannot reach his home because he has no ships or sailors to take him over the sea. As for your own end, Menelaus, don't worry. You will not die in Argos. The gods will take you to the Elysian plain, which is at the ends of the world. There, fair-haired Rhadamanthus reigns, and people live an easier life than anywhere else. In Elysium, no rain, hail, or snow ever falls. Instead, Oceanus always breathes with a gentle west wind that whispers from the sea, bringing new life to everyone. This will happen to you because you married Helen and are Zeus's son-in-law.
As he spoke, he dived under the waves. I returned to the ships with my companions, my heart heavy with worry the entire way. When we reached the ships, we prepared supper and camped on the beach, as night was falling. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, we launched our ships and set up our masts and sails. Then we boarded, took our seats on the benches, and rowed across the gray sea. I once again anchored my ships in the sacred river of Egypt and offered ample and generous hecatombs. After appeasing the god's anger, I built a burial mound for Agamemnon so his name would live forever. After that, the gods sent me a favorable wind, and I had a swift journey home.
And now for you, stay here for about 10 or 12 more days. After that, I will help you on your way. I will give you a noble gift, a chariot and 3 horses. I will also give you a beautiful chalice, so that you may remember me whenever you make a drink offering to the immortal gods, for as long as you live.
Son of Atreus.
Telemachus replied,
Please don't press me to stay longer. Honestly, I'd be happy to stay with you for another year. Your stories are so enjoyable that I wouldn't even think of returning home to my parents. But my crew, whom I left in Pylos, are already getting restless. You are holding me back from them. As for any gift you might want to give me, I'd prefer something like a silver vessel. I won't take horses back to Ithaca. I'll leave them to decorate your own stables. Your kingdom has many wide plains where lotus, various grasses, wheat, barley, and oats with their white, spreading heads all grow well. But in Ithaca, we have no open fields or racetracks. Our country is more suited for goats than horses, and I prefer it that way. Few of our islands have flat land suitable for horses, and Ithaca has the least of all.
Menelaus smiled and took Telemachus's hand.
What you say,
He said,
shows that you come from a truly noble family. I can, and will, make this exchange for you. I'll give you the finest and most precious metalwork in all my house. It's a mixing bowl crafted by Hephaestus himself, made of pure silver, with its rim inlaid with gold. Phaedimus, king of the Sidonians, gave it to me when I visited him on my journey home. I will give it to you as a gift.
They continued their conversation. Meanwhile, guests kept arriving at the king's house. They brought sheep and wine, and their wives prepared bread for them to take. The guests were busy preparing their dinners in the courtyards. Meanwhile, on the leveled ground in front of Odysseus's house, the suitors were still acting with their usual arrogance, throwing discus or aiming spears at a target. Antinous and Eurymachus, their leaders and the most prominent among them, were sitting together when Nomon, son of Phronius, approached and spoke to Antinous.
Antinous, do you know when Telemachus will return from Pylos? He took my ship, and I need it to cross over to Elis. I have 12 broodmares there with their yearling mule foals, not yet broken in, and I want to bring one of them here to train.
They were surprised to hear this. They had been so sure Telemachus hadn't gone to Neleus's city. They thought he was just somewhere on the farm, perhaps with a shepherd or a swineherd. So Antinous asked,
When did he leave? Tell me the truth. Which young men did he take with him? Were they free men, or his own servants? And did you lend him the ship willingly, or did he take it without your permission? I lent it to him.
Nomon replied,
How could I refuse a man of his standing when he came to me in trouble and asked for help? It was impossible to say no. The men who went with him were the finest young men in our town. And I saw Mentor board the ship as captain. Or perhaps it was a god who looked exactly like him. I don't understand it. I saw Mentor right here yesterday morning, and yet he was supposedly sailing to Pylos at the same time.
Nomon returned to his father's house, but Antinous and Eurymachus were furious. They told the other suitors to stop their games and come sit beside them. Once they had gathered, Antinous, son of Eupeithes, spoke, his voice filled with rage. His heart burned black with fury, and sparks seemed to fly from his eyes.
By the gods, Telemachus's voyage is a serious problem.
Antinous exclaimed.
We were so sure it was nothing, but this young fool has slipped away right under our noses, and with a crew of elite sailors. He'll soon become a real headache for us. May mighty Zeus take him before he fully grows into a man. So, find a ship that can carry 20 men. I will hide and wait in the strait between Ithaca and Samos. Then he will bitterly regret the day he decided to go looking for news of his father.
When he finished speaking, the others applauded his words, and they all went inside the building. It wasn't long before Penelope found out what the suitors were plotting. A servant named Medon had overheard them making their plans from outside in the courtyard. He immediately went to tell his mistress. As Medon stepped across the threshold of her room, Penelope said,
Medon, why have the suitors sent you here? Is it to tell the maids to abandon their master's work and prepare dinner for them? I wish they would never woo or dine here again, neither here nor anywhere else. This must be the very last time, seeing how all of you are wasting my son's estate. Didn't your fathers tell you when you were children how good Odysseus was to them? He never acted arrogantly or spoke harshly to anyone. Kings might sometimes say this or that, or favor one person and dislike another, but Odysseus never did an unjust thing to anyone. This just shows what wicked hearts you have, and how little gratitude is left in this world.
Then Medon said,
Madam, I wish that were all, but they are plotting something far more dreadful now. May the heavens frustrate their design. They plan to murder young Telemachus on his way home from Pylos and Lacedaemon, where he went to seek news of his father.
Penelope's heart sank within her, and for a long time, she couldn't speak. Her eyes filled with tears, and no words would come out. At last, she managed to say,
Why did my son leave me? What business did he have sailing off in ships that make long voyages across the ocean, like seahorses? Does he want to die without leaving anyone behind to carry on his name? I don't know.
Medon answered.
Whether some god urged him on, or maybe he went on his own to find out if his father was dead, or alive and on his way home.
Medon went downstairs again, leaving Penelope in an agony of grief. There were many seats in the house, but she had no heart to sit on any of them. She could only throw herself onto the floor of her room and weep. Then all the maids in the house, both old and young, gathered around her and began to cry with her. Finally, overwhelmed with sorrow, she cried out,
My dears, heaven seems determined to give me more suffering than any other woman my age in this world. First, I lost my brave, lion-hearted husband. He possessed every good quality under the sun, and his name was known throughout all Hellas and Central Argos. Now, my beloved son is at the mercy of the winds and waves, and I didn't hear a single word about him leaving home. You wretches! You all clearly knew he was leaving, yet not one of you thought to call me from my bed and tell me. If I had known he intended to take this voyage, would have made him give it up, no matter how stubborn he was, or I would have died trying. One or the other. Now, some of you go and call old Dolius. He was given to me by my father when I married and is my gardener. Tell him to go at once and tell everything to Laertes. Perhaps Laertes can find a way to gain public sympathy on our side, against those who are trying to wipe out his own family and Odysseus's family.
Then the dear old nurse Eurycleus said,
Madam, you may kill me, or let me live on in your house, whichever you please, but I will tell you the truth. I knew all about it. I gave him everything he wanted, like bread and wine. However, young master made me swear a solemn oath that I wouldn't tell you anything for about 10 or 12 days, unless you asked directly or happened to find out he had gone. He didn't want you to spoil your beauty by crying. So now, madam, wash your face, change your dress, and go upstairs with your maids to offer prayers to Athena, daughter of shield-bearing Zeus. She can save him, even if he is at death's door. Do not trouble Laertes, he has enough worries already. Besides, I cannot believe the gods hate the family of Arcesius's son so much. Surely, a son will be left to follow him and inherit both the house and the beautiful fields all around it.
With these words, the nurse made her mistress stop crying and wiped the tears from her eyes. Penelope washed her face, changed her dress, and went upstairs with her maids. She then put some crushed barley into a basket and began praying to Athena.
"Hear me,"
she cried.
"Daughter of shield-bearing Zeus, tireless one. If ever Odysseus, while he was here, burned you the fat thigh bones of sheep or heifer, remember that favor now for my sake. Save my beloved son from the suitor's wickedness."
She cried aloud as she spoke, and the goddess heard her prayer. Meanwhile, the suitors were making a loud commotion in the covered cloister. One of them said,
"The queen is getting ready to marry one of us. Little does she dream that her son is now doomed to die."
They spoke these words, but they had no idea what was truly going to happen. Then Antinous said,
"Comrades, let's not talk so loudly. Our voices might carry inside. Let us quietly carry out the plan we all agreed upon."
He then chose 20 men, and they went down to the ship by the seashore. They pulled the vessel into the water and loaded its mast and sails inside. They firmly tied the oars to the oarlocks with leather straps and hoisted the white sails high. Their loyal servants brought them their armor. They secured the ship a little way out from shore, then returned to the beach. They ate their supper and waited for night to fall. Penelope lay in her upstairs room, unable to eat or drink. She worried constantly about her brave son. Would he escape the wicked suitors, or would they capture him? Like a lioness caught in a trap, surrounded by hunters, she thought and thought until sleep finally claimed her. She lay still on her bed, her mind and body at rest. Then Athena had another idea. She created a phantom in the form of Iphthime, Penelope's sister. Iphthime was the daughter of Icarius, married to Eumelus, and lived in Phaerae. Athena instructed the phantom to go to Odysseus's house and make Penelope stop crying. The phantom entered the room through the hole where the door thong passed. It hovered above Penelope's head and spoke.
"Penelope, you are asleep."
The phantom said,
"The gods, who live in comfort, will not let you grieve and weep like this. Your son has done nothing wrong to them, so he will surely return to you."
Penelope, who had been sweetly sleeping on the threshold of dreams, replied,
"Sister, what brings you here? You don't visit often, which is understandable since you live so far away. Are you saying I should stop crying and put an end to all these sad thoughts that torment me? I lost my husband, who was brave and strong as a lion. He possessed every good quality, and his name was renowned throughout Hellas and Central Argos. Now, even my beloved son has sailed away. He's an inexperienced, foolish boy, not used to crowds or hardship. I worry more about my son than my husband. The thought of something happening to him, whether from the people he meets or the dangers of the sea, makes my whole body tremble. So many enemies are plotting to kill him before he can return home."
Then the phantom said,
"Be brave, and don't despair too much. Someone many would wish to have by their side has gone with him. It is the goddess Athena herself. She pities you and sent me to deliver this message."
Penelope asked again,
"If you are a god, or sent by a god, then tell me about that other unfortunate person, my husband. Is he still alive, or is he already dead and in the house of Hades?"
The phantom replied,
"I cannot tell you for certain whether he is alive or dead. Let's stop this idle conversation."
Then the phantom vanished through the door-thong hole and dissolved into thin air. But Penelope woke from her sleep, feeling refreshed and comforted. Her dream had been so vivid. Meanwhile, the suitors boarded their ships and sailed out to sea. Their plan was to murder Telemachus. In the middle of the channel between Ithaca and the island of Samos, there is a small rocky islet called Asteris. It has harbors on both sides where a ship can anchor. This is where the Achaeans set their ambush.